Cadillac. I got the key on. Let's go ahead and lower the window. As soon as I remove this plastic shielding or this moisture barrier, I already saw the problem here. So let's go ahead and lower the window and look where the glass is hitting. Somebody's been in here obviously, and someone ran this harness and they put it in front of the rail where it's gonna hit the glass. How stupid is that? So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug it at this connector and see if I could run the harness behind the rail, and it should clear the glass. All right, so there we go. As you can see, I moved the harness and it's now in front of that rail right there instead of going behind it. And if we lower the glass, oh wow, look at that, it goes all the way down. What a miracle. Who would have thought? You know what this is? This is someone who was in here to do something. I don't know what this connector is for. It's not plugged into anything. Maybe they changed a window motor at some point and it used a different connector. I have no idea. I don't know what this is for. I did not unplug it. Anyway, so someone's been in here and they just routed the harness the incorrect way, which is really stupid because it just comes back to, and I keep seeing this over and over again, people do work on a car and yet they don't test or check to make sure everything's okay after the repair, which absolutely baffles me. It doesn't matter what I do, I'm going to confirm that my repair fixed the car. Like right now, if I put this window motor on, after you put everything, or even before you put everything together, make sure the window goes all the way up and down. You know what I'm saying? This tells me that somebody was in here, they did the work, and they just slapped it all together. Hey, come pick up your car, it's ready. Didn't even bother to try it. It's crazy. Got this Ford Escape here. It's here for a filler neck. So this is the first time I ever replaced one of these that has a no cap system. So overall, not too bad of a job. You can see I got the new piece installed. Just have a few more things to button up. I also have to put on a charcoal canister. So this thing has some evap leaks. I did not diagnose this. She took it to a shop and they told her it needs a charcoal canister and a fuel filler neck. So that's what I'm changing. And hopefully they are right about this evap leak. All right, so here goes the original unit off of the car, and we did get a OEM Ford part for this. So everything looks good. It looks like I'm gonna have to transfer over this pipe right here, this tube. Just put it on here, and that's it. It's not too bad. I'm gonna make sure there's no restrictions in these lines, or at least this one, because this one has a brand new one. I got the new unit installed, as you can see, and everything is reconnected and ready to go. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pop the wheel on it, and that's just about it for this one. We are back with this Hyundai Sonata. It's the one that we just put the front struts on it. Remember guys, the black nuts? All right, so it's back because of a noise up front coming from the suspension every time you turn the wheel, and I diagnosed a lower ball joint. So I'm sure you guys can hear that. And we're also going to be putting a bellow on the inner tie rod. All right, so I got out the lower ball joint and actually smashed my finger on this one, doing something stupid. The lower ball joint was still attached to the lower control arm, and it was you know, it was out of the knuckle, but it was just binding up right here. So I put the pry bar in here to try to lift down the system. And the first thing, before I put my hand in there, I was like, man, if this pry bar slips, I'm gonna smash my finger. And sure enough, that's what happened. Luckily, I had on some gloves like this, so nothing is wrong with my finger. It just kind of stings at the moment. But yeah, thank God for these gloves. That's why I always wear gloves, or at least I always try to. So I got the new bellow installed. You can see it right there. I put a new clamp on it also. All this is put back together and tightened. I got a new cotter pin right here. And here goes the new ball joint. All of this is all set as well. I shot some grease into that Zerk fitting, and it's pretty much all set. So I'm just gonna go ahead, put the brakes back together, and we'll take it out for a test drive. Just gonna take it around the block once and make sure everything's good. But I can already tell you that this thing is fixed. It was that lower ball joint, just like I diagnosed. Let's go ahead and make some turns here. No noise at all. And the owner of the car was ready to throw a rack and pinion at this thing. No need for all of that. just a ball joint. So that's a fix for this one. Noise is gone. Let's move on to the next car. Here I have a 2004 Camry. This car actually belongs to one of my subscribers on YouTube. It turns out he's not that far from me. So he made the drive out here. And it's getting 2 front lower control arms, which you can see this side is installed. And this side is also installed. It's real pain in the butt on this car because of the engine mounts. They have to be removed on each side. So here was one engine mount right there, and as you can see I got this lower control arm in place already. So I'm just wrapping it up here. And he also brought some new slide pins for the rear calipers because he said he went to go do them, and the heads on the slide pins are rounded off. So I have to see if I can extract them and find out what's going on with that, see if I'll be able to get it done. Here goes the rear brakes, and as you can see they are in need of changing, and that's why the owner wanted to go ahead and do them, but he couldn't because the slide pins were seized in place. They were kind of rounded off, but that's just a side effect. The main problem here is the pins were seized in place, and that's what caused someone to round them off. But as you can see, I got them out using the torch and the impact gun. And now what I'm going to do is use this kit right here and clean out the inner bore of where the slide pins go. We'll put some brand new grease in them, and we'll put the new slide pins on it. Of course, I'm not doing the brakes. The owner's gonna do the brakes himself, but by doing all of this, it's gonna allow him to get the brakes done. So I hope that makes sense. So he also wants me to, and I forgot to mention this before, change the sway bar bushings. So there goes one of them right there, and the one on the other side. So I have to go ahead and knock that out as well tonight. Not a big issue. So I'm gonna put some fresh grease on them, and that'll be it for this side. You know what, while I'm in here, I'm gonna go check out the other side and make sure those bolts are also free, so that when he comes in here to do the brakes, he doesn't run into an issue on that side. So I'll check them right now. So by fixing this right here, the brakes are gonna feel better on his ride home, even though it's looking a little rusty. Because before, with the pins locked up like that, essentially these rear brakes weren't doing anything to stop this car. And if you're wondering what caused this issue, it's pretty much this right here. You can see the dust boot is compromised. It's cut open. So it sits right here, and it allows water to get inside of there and then begins the rusting process. So this needs to get replaced if you want to avoid a future problem like this again. So I am pretty much done for tonight. As you can see, the caliper is put back together, got the new slide pins in it. Everything is greased, torqued down, and the caliper actually slides back and forth, so everything's working like it should. I went ahead and checked the slide pins on the other side of the car, and they do move, so there's no issue right there. He's not gonna have an issue with that. And I already went ahead and knocked out the sway bar bushings, so you can see it has a new bushing right there. The other side is done as well. So it's the next day, and I've only driven the car around the block a few times, and we could already see signs of the brakes on the rear right wheel starting to work. You can see the shiny spot right there on the rotor. Before, it was just completely rusted. It's not perfect, of course. The brakes still need to be done, but they are working now. Get out of here. Go. Crap, it's going in deeper. Get out. I open up the freaking garage door for 1 second and a bird flies in. Are you kidding me? Get out. Go. He does not want to leave. He must be scared and not know where to go. That's why he's just hiding. And here I am like a gorilla just pounding around. I don't blame him for being scared. The hell, why'd you fly in here, you freaking idiot? It's horse shit. Dude, I think that bird is dead. Oh no, I just saw it look at me. It's still alive. He's just chilling. It doesn't want to move. Go! I'm here with this Mazda Tribute. Now, I recently put front strut assemblies on this car and front lower control arms. This is the male lady, so she's constantly going through ball joints and lower control arms. And like I said, not too long ago we put these control arms on, but again, the ball joints are out. They only last, you know, a couple of months. So we decided to, instead of changing the whole arm again, let's go ahead and press out the crappy ball joint now. I can't remember if these are AutoZone or O'Reilly's parts. I know it was one of those two. Anyway, so we decided to just press out the crappy ball joints that come with them, and we're putting in like this TTX tough terrain ball joint. Don't know if it's any better, but we're giving it a try. As you can see, I just finished pressing this one in. It's gonna get new pads and rotors up front, and on the front left side, it's getting the same thing: the pads, the rotors, the lower ball joint, but it's also getting a complete knuckle and CV shaft, because on that side, the CV shaft is actually seized to the knuckle and I can't get it to separate. So we have a part here from a salvage yard. It's a complete knuckle with a CV shaft in it. So let's see how that goes. And unfortunately, this outer tie rod, the joint on it is no good and it's loose. This is O'Reilly's outer tie rod, and I put this one on not too long ago. Just off the top of my mind, if I could remember, just a couple of months. So that's unfortunate. But again, I mean, look inside of here. What do we see? That is a torn bushing. So I did not notice that the first time. I'm just noticing it right now. You know, had I seen that before, AutoZone wouldn't even warranty out, because they already warranted this lower control arm, so they're not going to warranty it again. Their lifetime means one-time replacement. It doesn't mean keep replacing it. So they wouldn't even warranty this one out. It just sucks because it's only been a couple of months. I'm not even exaggerating, okay? If I could get the exact date, I would. But it hasn't been that long, and the bushings are bad. The ball joint was bad. It's crazy. Let's see how long those bushings back there last, because we just pressed a ball joint in right here. I don't know, whatever. I just don't know what to do. This lady keeps going through parts, and it's freaking crazy. So here was the entire knuckle with the CV shaft that she brought me. It's been here for like a month or so, but CV shaft seems to be in decent condition. We're gonna obviously get new pads, new rotor. We're gonna reuse the caliper that's on the car. We're not gonna use this one. We're going to have to remove this ABS sensor because it is broken right there. First, I'm gonna try to remove the one off of her car. If it doesn't want to come off without breaking, then I guess I'll just leave that right there, and we'll just plug this one in because they did not cut the harness, which is a good thing. So let me go ahead and get these get this caliper, pads, and rotor off of here. And before I just go ahead and slap this on, I want to see if I could remove the CV shaft out of this knuckle right here. That's the whole reason why we're doing all of this, is because her CV shaft doesn't want to release from the wheel bearing. It's like completely seized in there. If this one doesn't want to move either, it's kind of pointless, you know what I mean? Alright, so I got the CV shaft out of it. It actually came out pretty easy using the impact gun and the air hammer. Now, the nut that was on here, I mean, look at this thing. I don't think that washer is supposed to be like concave like that. I don't know, but it's all we have. And we have to reuse it. As you can see, I got everything removed from the knuckle, but there's a few things that I ran into that are a little bit concerning. First of all, when I went to remove the caliper bracket from the knuckle, these two big washers fell off, which there isn't supposed to be any washers here. So the washers were between the knuckle and the brake caliper, just like that. So essentially it's spacing out, bringing the caliper out further, and I thought, that was weird. Whatever, let's keep taking it apart. Then I see the dust shield and I'm like, okay, this thing is destroyed. There's nothing holding it in place, and it's just bouncing around back here, and I did not cut that open like that. It was already cut open. Okay, so I'm like, you know what, it's getting removed. It's garbage anyway, we don't need it. That's off, right? And then once I get that out of the way, I see this ring bouncing around in here, and I'm like, what's this for? This is weird. Then I realized that's the freaking retainer ring for the wheel bearing. If we come from the back, you can see this wheel bearing is actually pressing or walking itself out of the knuckle, and I think that explains why someone tried to space out the brake caliper, so the wheel bearing is walking out further and further, which essentially brings the rotor out further. And I bet you whoever had this car before, or whoever it belonged to while it was in the junkyard, I bet you it kept eating up the pads like crazy. They probably didn't realize that the wheel bearing was walking itself out, so what they tried to do was space out the caliper to bring it out further to meet up with the rotor. So I hope all that makes sense. Yeah guys, there's no way I can put this on this car because this thing is going to need a wheel bearing. And it's unfortunate because this is the lady that's already strung out for money, and every time the bill goes higher and higher because of more problems I run into, she sits here and cries. Like literally cries, okay? And I'm not for that. I'm tired of that. You know, I don't need that type of drama. I'm just gonna tell her what I found, and we can't do this today, and that's it. You know, it needs more work. We have to put a new wheel bearing in this before we could go any further. Well, instead of waiting to hear back from the owner, which probably isn't gonna happen for a few hours, might as well try to do something. So I'm gonna clean and push all this stuff to the side. Let's pull the car in, and let's see what's going on with the CV shaft. Who knows? Maybe it'll come out this time. Maybe I'll get lucky. It beats sitting here doing nothing, right? So the wheel on the front left side shakes even more. This thing's pretty bad. It's crazy how bad it is. And that's a combination of a bad lower ball joint, as well as, again, that outer tie rod that I just put on not so long ago is also bad. It's crazy. And now I see why I couldn't get this axle out of here. Look at this thing. That nut is locked in place, and there's no flat edges to grab onto. If you didn't know any better, you would just say that thing is welded together, but there's supposed to be a nut there. That's why I couldn't get it off last time. You know what? Since we now have a replacement CV shaft, I'm not really afraid of damaging this one. So since we have a replacement here, let's just do what we have to get this nut off of here. What I'm thinking is come in here with the die grinder and try to cut the nut in half to relieve the tension, and hopefully we could get it off. Doesn't really matter now if we damage the threads on the CV shaft because it's going to get replaced anyway. See, before I didn't have any parts to replace anything with, so I didn't want to damage the CV shaft, but now all bets are off. Okay, so using my die grinder and a bit like this, just came in here and I try to work my way all the way up to the back and basically cut a slot in that nut. And I came with a chisel bit on the air hammer and started hitting it sideways like this, and the nut has cracked, and I think I even saw it move. Let's try to move it again. This is really difficult with one hand. I may not even be able to do it. Yep, the nut has definitely cracked free. So let me go ahead and hammer a socket on it now, and we'll see if we can zip this thing out with the impact gun. So I got a smaller socket here, just kind of hammered it on. And we may have to just keep working our way down in sizes. So I just pulled out the big gun here. Look at that. That's amazing. And honestly, not too much damage to the CV shaft. Let's see if this thing will push through. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. All right, you know what? We just saved this lady a whole lot of money by switching to the mechanic. This thing got done. We'll put the new CV shaft in it, put the new ball joint, new brakes, and unfortunately, I hope you guys can see that there's some play in the outer tie rod. I'm gonna talk to the woman about seeing if she could warranty these things out for me. O'Reilly's. They're relatively new. And I'll just go ahead and throw them on there for her, no charge at all, since I just did them recently. And it's kind of unfortunate, and they're pretty easy to change. So if she brings me another set under warranty, I'm not gonna charge her for labor. All right, so there we go. Got the new CV shaft installed. Everything's in place. Here goes the old one. You can see the boot is torn, and it makes a ton of noise while driving. She said it makes like that classic clicking, clocking noise. If I were smart, I would have changed the ball joint with the CV shaft out of here, but whatever. All right, so everything's looking really good with the axle. Lower ball joint, everything's all set. Put the Zerk fitting on it and gave it a few pumps of grease. So that's all good to go. Just gonna go ahead and put the new rotor on it, new pads, and it turns out the outer tie rod, well, both of them came from O'Reilly Auto Parts, and since it wasn't too long ago that we changed these, they still are under warranty. So the owner's gonna pick up a brand new set right now, and I'll go ahead and pop them on for her, and this thing will be all set. Well, it's back for what I said it needed last time, which is a front right wheel bearing. and it's going to get pads and rotors all the way around. Here I have that new wheel bearing for the Charger. So let's just go ahead and check this real fast before we slap it on, because this is the reason why we're changing it. The bearing itself is still actually good, but because of the ABS issue, we have to double check this. And everything looks like it's checking out. And here goes the wheel bearing that came off of the car. You can see a big old chunk is missing out of the strip right there. We could use this to identify it a little bit better. You see we have our lines going all the way around the wheel bearing until we get to right here. You can see it disappears and then it comes back right there. I got the new wheel bearing installed. It's all torqued down how it should be. And this is hard to see, but I already sprayed the entire face of the wheel bearing with the CRC to protect it from corrosion. Here goes our new rotor, as well as our brand new brake pads. So by the time I'm done with this thing, it's going to be stopping much better, because here on the slide pins, this one still moves freely. This one is completely locked up. It won't move at all. So we have some work to do here. Yeah, this car is going to be stopping a lot better because it's going to have the new wheel bearing, which will just take care of the ABS issue. It's going to have new rotors, new pads, which if we look at the old pad that came off of here, this has got crazy amount of grooves cut into it. The pads are going to be able to move freely inside of the caliper bracket how they should, and we're going to free up these C slide pins. It's going to be a massive improvement. Alright, so it's all set. See, it moves, it spins, it goes in and out without any issues. What I had to do was heat this up right here with the torch, use my 3/8 impact gun to get it spinning, and it finally came out. And then I put the pin on the wire wheel to clean it up and get it all nice and how it should be. And then I grabbed my other impact gun with this wire brush attachment, went inside the bore with brake parts cleaner and the wire attachment, and cleaned out the bore and put silicone paste on all the clean parts. And now everything moves freely, just how it should be. So I'm just gonna go ahead and knock out this one. This one's pretty good, as you can see it moves, so it's just gonna need a little bit of cleaning and fresh grease. All right, so this side is all set. As you can see, everything is put back together and it's ready to go. So I'm just gonna go ahead and knock out the other 3 wheels and it should be all set. I'm just about done on the rear right side. See, we got our new pads and rotor on. I gotta clean my handprint off of that. But what I want to show you guys is look at the tires on this thing. Completely bald right here, showing the wire. That's unfortunate. You can tell this thing has a crazy amount of negative camber. And I went ahead and put my scanner on it since I, did the front right wheel bearing to, clear the code for the ABS system. And it seems like we have a new code within the ABS system. We have a left rear wheel performance. So that sucks, because on these, the tone ring is built into the CV shaft. So if there's something wrong with that tone ring, then it's going to need a complete CV shaft on the rear left side, which would be the other side. And that sucks, because I was hoping that we could just put this wheel bearing on and fix her ABS issue, because last time she was here, like 2 weeks ago or something like that, she only had the one code for that wheel bearing, and now she has another code. So I just took out the Charger for a test drive. The brakes feel great, no noise or anything like that. Unfortunately, we are not going to get rid of this ABS light at the moment, because I took some screenshots here while I was driving. And you can see here goes our right front, looks pretty good. Right rear looks pretty good. Left front looks good. And here goes our issue, left rear, which is the one I just put the wheel bearing on last time it was here. But you can see the dropouts that we have, little tiny dropouts. And if that's up to maybe like 40-50 miles per hour, but if we slow it down a little bit, see, this is like 30 miles per hour, the dropouts are more noticeable. So this has nothing to do with that wheel bearing that I installed. The tone ring on this car is actually part of the CV shaft. So in order to fix this, it's going to need a CV shaft replacement. So that's unfortunate, because I was hoping to get this issue fixed for the owner.